on Y News. The Departments of Agriculture and of Trade and Industry conduct inspection in local markets to ensure quality and fair pricing of rice. The Commission on Elections favors the proposal mandating candidates in Barangay and Sanggunian Kabataan elections to submit their resumes. And some K-12 graduates experience difficulties in finding jobs. Y News begins now.
From the UNTV News and Rescue Command Center in Quezon City, this is Y News.
Good evening. The Departments of Agriculture and of Trade and Industry conducted surprise visits in several markets in Metro Manila. The two agencies plan to set suggested retail price for rice. Ray Pelayo will tell us why.
The Department of Trade and Industry and the Department of Agriculture with the National Food Authority have joined forces and started their inspection at Cartimar Market in Pasay City to monitor the quality and prices of rice. The price of the Tulong Sabayan rice at 39 pesos kilogram is noticeably lower than the other commercial rice.
Yung presyo ng mga 44 namin, mas maganda pa yung 39.
Mas makakamura ako, kaya nag-try na ako.
DA and DTI are now looking into the possibility of setting an SRP or suggested retail price for rice to guide consumers.
Wala pong problema po sa mga retailers po.
Consumer ang bahalang mamili kung anong gusto nilang bigas. But at importante may option na mura.
Meanwhile, Agriculture Secretary Manny Piñol has questioned the high prices of commercial imported rice. He adds that the government allows the private sector to import rice to help stabilize the supply and price of rice in the country.
Hindi ko maintindihan kung bakit aabot ng 50 ang presyo ng imported na bigas. Ang ibig sabihin, ano pakinabang natin?
Piñol also appealed to rice retailers to support the government and traders project.
Huwag na muna magreklamo masyado sa kinikita nilang tubo.
DA and DTI are now planning the traceability of rice, especially from the country of origin, and how much it should be priced.
Para halimbawa, wag naman sana mangyari. Alam mo, nalason yung mga Pilipino. Alam natin kung saan galing yung bigas.
Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasay City.
The proposal to trade the seized smuggled rice in Zamboanga will need to go through process. This according to the statement made by Presidential Spokesperson Harry Roque. Joan Nano will tell us why.
The proposal to trade the smuggled rice seized by the Philippine Navy from the MV Diamond 8 in Zamboanga, Sibugay last Saturday night would have to go through a proper process. The Bureau of Customs says they will conduct a probe and will give the owner of the vessel and the shipment and their crew ample time to respond. Once it was proven that they have violated the Philippine laws, they will be issued warrant of seizure and detention or WSD, after which the smuggled rice will be auctioned.
After considering all the facts of the case sa Navy at saka sa mga may-ari ng barko, after the proper seizure and forfeiture proceedings, doon pa lang natin sila pwedeng i-auction.
Meanwhile, the Philippine Navy met yesterday with the Bureau of Customs, Bureau of Immigration, and Bureau of Quarantine in preparation for the joint inventory of more than 27,000 sacks of smuggled rice, which was estimated to cost 67 million pesos.
We want to turn this over, these goods to the proper agencies, and then yung sa crew naman, doon naman sa Bureau of Immigration, as far as the goods are concerned, to turn over namin ito sa Bureau of Customs.
The Bureau of Customs says aside from the inventory, they also need to check if the sea vessel was also carrying illegal shipment such as drugs and other smuggled goods. Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The National Food Authority orders the acceleration of rice importation. In line with this, NFA Administrator Jason Aquino tasked the agency's Special Bids and Awards Committee to hasten the government-to-government procurement of 250,000 metric tons of rice to immediately replenish the government buffer stocks. Aquino says President Rodrigo Duterte wants the agency to have buffer stock for 60 days. The Commission on Elections is in favor of the proposal that mandates candidates for the Barangay and Sanggunian Kabataan elections to submit their resumes. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
The election watchdog National Citizens Movement for Free Elections, or NAMFREL, proposes that candidates for the Barangay and SK elections to submit their resume or biodata. This is for the voters to choose well candidates who are capable to run for elections and serve their community. The Department of the Interior and Local Government, or DILG, agrees with NAMFREL and recommended it to the COMELEC and Bank. The COMELEC also agrees with the proposal. According to the poll body, while there is still no law requiring it, there is also no regulation that prohibits a candidate to include their bio in their COCs.
It's optional. I don't know that it will be elevated to the level of a mandatory requirement.
Meanwhile, there is an estimated 300,000 submitted certificates of candidacy nationwide, but only almost 80,000 of which have aspired to run for the Sanggunian Kabataan elections. 18,000 of them filed for SK chairman and more than 60,000 for SK Kagawad. This is the reason why the National Youth Commission calls on the youth ages 18 to 24 years to file their COCs.
We need to enjoin the Filipino youth to participate and take advantage of this SK reform. So we want to change our country. Let's start it with the barangay, with the SK.
According to the COMELEC, the youth has an important role in the SK polls, considering that there are 20.6 million youth voters in the country. The COMELEC says the filing of COC will no longer be extended and the last day will be on April 20, according to the decision of the COMELEC and Bank. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
The Commission on Elections has imposed perpetual disqualification against 105 individuals for their repeated failure of submitting their statement of contributions and expenditures, or SOSE. This automatically bars them from holding any government positions. A candidate, whether he wins or not, is obliged by the law to submit SOSE after election. The deadline of SOSE in connection to the May 14 Barangay and Sanggunian Kabataan elections will be on June 13. Some K-12 graduates are having difficulties in finding jobs. Monokson will tell us why.
Rafael and Joyceline, who are among the 600,000 newly graduates from the K-12 program, have different opinions on the program.
Ang alam po nila kasi ng mga naghahanap po is mga college. Ang tingin din ng iba po sa amin is high school lang yan, ganun. Kaya imbes na nakakapag po kami, mahirap din po kasi kami maghanap nung pag-OJT kasi ang turing sa amin ng iba po na pinag-a-applyan po namin is high school student.
Hindi ko ramdam na kailangan kong sabihin na kaya ko po yan, just trust me. Parang nagpakatotoo na lang po ako na dumaan ako sa tamang proseso. So maybe by that, kailangan ako ng company nyo. So parang doon ko lang po dinaan.
The Department of Labor and Employment says the K-12 will help fresh K-12 graduates to get a job. But because the graduates this year are the first batch, the Labor Department cannot tell if the program will address the issue of unemployment and job mismatch in the country.
What is important is na bridge natin yung gap in terms of basic education natin from 10 years to 12 years. Kasi yun yung kulang natin at the international labor market.
For newly graduates who want to get a job but have no job experience, this is the advice of Dole.
Pwede nilang sabihin sa prospective employers that they are willing to undergo training doon sa company para ma-build at ma-hone yung skills nila.
Dole also advised fresh graduates to be confident in job interviews.
Huwag silang mahihiya kasi yun yung nakikita namin pagka nag-a-apply sila ng trabaho. Pag tatanungin mo, anong ina-applyan mo? Bakit dito kang kumpanya pumipila? They cannot answer. Dapat they should be sure about what they are applying for and be confident.
Rafael and Joyceline still want to pursue their studies as the government is offering free college program. After college, they hope to get and apply for high-paying jobs. Monhokson, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Undersecretary Dominador Sai bids farewell to the Department of Labor and Employment. Meantime, labor unions hope their draft EO on contractualization will be adopted in the final order that will be signed by President Rodrigo Duterte. Here's why from May Bermudez.
Undersecretary Dominador Sai formally bids farewell to the Department of Labor and Employment. He became part of the agency for more than a year. Aside from wanting to spare the department from issues of corruption, he admits that the marching order from the president to regularize thousands of workers is one of the reasons why he quit his post.
300,000 is not a small number. As of February, 140,000 na ang ating output. And this is another 300 for the whole year. Sabi ko, I will not be standing in the way. Let somebody else do that. Pero at the same time, more important para sa akin, I will spare the secretary from intrigues.
Aside from Dole's version, 2 more draft EOs were passed to Malacanang for review of President Rodrigo Duterte. These were the versions of the business and labor groups. The Associated Labor Union Trade Union Congress of the Philippines, or ALU-TUCP, hopes if these versions were consolidated by the President, their provisions will be included in the signed executive order.
Yung mga, for example, yung mga nasa hotel and restaurant industry, mag-identify sila kung ano-ano yung mga job na pwedeng contractual. Kung ano yung mga job na hindi pwedeng contractual.
Meanwhile, although the Employers Confederation of the Philippines trusts President Duterte's decision-making on the order that will be formed, it warns of its possible implications on investors in the country.
If we continue or if we listen to this out of this world proposal of labor, what we will see is also an exodus of our manufacturing industry. Kasi ang gagawin lang naman, hindi naman kami magsasara. What we will do is instead of working in the Philippines, we'll work in one of the ASEAN countries. You cannot do that. Are you going to close the whole BPO industry? Are you going to close all of these construction companies?
May Bermudez, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasay City.
Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency Director General Aaron Aquino orders PDEA regional directors to intensify their drug clearing operations in barangays across the country. Of the 5,000 barangays declared in 2017 as a drug cleared, 1/2 has returned to drug-affected barangay status. The PDEA Director General also aims at intensifying the conduct of Oplan Tukhang on those who have returned to drug use. Meanwhile, Davao City is in need of additional 20 to 30 accredited and licensed tour guides to serve the influx of tourists in the city. These tour guides must have Chinese, Japanese, Spanish, or Russian as second language. In line with this, the Department of Tourism will conduct a month-long training for the interested tour guide applicants. The Department of Tourism Region 8 urges local legislators to draft an ordinance to further boost tourist destinations and add more opportunities for livelihood among locals. This would include a homestay program through which a house may become a regular accommodation facility for tourists in Eastern Visayas. With this, there is no more need to invite huge investors who build hotels and large infrastructures. Homeowners who wish to offer homestay accommodation must undergo training and assessment in order to be granted accreditation. Homestay rates have yet to be set, which would depend on the ordinance that will be passed by the local government. Next on Y News. Lieutenant General Carlito Galvez formally assumes office as AFP Chief of Staff. President Rodrigo Duterte awards Medal of Valor to 42 SAF commandos slain in Mamasapano encounter. Y News will be right back. I'm Darlene Basingan. Stay tuned for Angelo Caso III. Good evening.
On Y News tonight, the Departments of Agriculture and of Trade and Industry conduct inspection in local markets to ensure quality and fair pricing of rice. The Commission on Elections favors the proposal mandating candidates in Barangay and Sanggunian Kabataan elections to submit their resumes. Some K-12 graduates experience difficulties in finding jobs. Good evening. The Departments of Agriculture and of Trade and Industry conducted surprise visits in several markets in Metro Manila. The two agencies plan to set suggested retail price for rice. Ray Pelayo will tell us why.
The Department of Trade and Industry and the Department of Agriculture with the National Food Authority have joined forces and started their inspection at Cartimar Market in Pasay City to monitor the quality and prices of rice. The price of the Tulong sa Bayan rice at 39 pesos kilogram is noticeably lower than the other commercial rice.
Yung presyo ng mga 44 namin, mas maganda pa yung 39.
Mas makakamura ako, kaya nag-try na ako.
DA and DTI are now looking into the possibility of setting an SRP or suggested retail price for rice to guide consumers.
Wala pong problema po sa mga retailers po.
Consumer ang bahalang mamili kung anong gusto nilang bigas. But at importante may option na mura.
Meanwhile, Agriculture Secretary Manny Piñol has questioned the high prices of commercial imported rice. He adds that the government allows the private sector to import rice to help stabilize the supply and price of rice in the country.
Hindi ko maintindihan kung bakit aabot ng 50 ang presyo ng imported na bigas. Ang ibig sabihin, ano pakinabang natin?
Piñol also appealed to rice retailers to support the government and traders project.
Huwag na muna magreklamo masyado sa kinikita nilang tubo.
DA and DTI are now planning the traceability of rice, especially from the country of origin, and how much it should be priced.
Para halimbawa, wag naman sana mangyari, alam mo, nalason yung mga Pilipino, alam natin kung saan galing yung bigas.
Ray Pelayo, UNTV, News and Rescue, Pasay City.
The Commission on Elections is in favor of the proposal that mandates candidates for the Barangay and Sanggunian Kabataan elections to submit their resumes. The proposal came from the election watchdog National Citizens Movement for Free Elections, or NAMFREL. This is for the voters to choose wisely candidates who are capable to run for elections and serve their community. According to the poll body, while there is still no law requiring it, there is also no regulation that prohibits a candidate to include their bio in their COCs.
It's optional. I don't know that it will be elevated to the level of a mandatory requirement.
600,000 teachers confirmed that they are ready to serve as Board of Election tellers for the May 14 Barangay and SK elections, although their service is no longer mandatory. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
An estimated 177,000 precincts in the country must be filled in with 3 Board of Election tellers, or BET, per precinct. This is equal to 531,000 members of the Electoral Board. The Commission on Elections says more than this number have committed to them, with a total of 600,000 teachers. The participation of teachers in the Barangay and SK polls is no longer mandatory in accordance with the Republic Act 10756, or Election Service Reform Act, signed last April 2016. COMELEC explains they need more BET if ever a member will not show up on the day of the elections.
Buo na yung complement natin ng teachers, no? It's a different matter to see on election day. Sometimes, kompleto yung listahan mo 2 days before the elections, and then on election day, biglang may mga no-show. May mga alternates tayong naka-identify na.
COMELEC is coordinating with the Department of Education about the honoraria for the teachers. Next week, COMELEC will issue an update on the budget they will allocate as payment for the teachers who will serve as BETs.
Fina-finalize yung MOA with DepEd patungkol dyan. One thing that I am fairly sure of is that ang magiging compensation nila, of course, will be based on the days of service that they will render.
Based on the Election Service Reform Act, all members of the Electoral Board, from the chairperson of electoral boards, members of electoral boards, DESO, down to the support staff, will receive corresponding amount as honoraria and travel allowance. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Some K-12 graduates are having difficulties in finding jobs. Monokson will tell us why.
Rafael and Joyceline, who are among the 600,000 newly graduates from the K-12 program, have different opinions on the program.
Ang alam po nila kasi ng mga naghahanap po is mga college. Ang tingin din ng iba po sa amin is high school lang yan, ganun. Kaya imbes na nakakapag po kami, mahirap din po kasi kami maghanap nung pag-OJT kasi ang turing sa amin ng iba po na pinag-a-applyan po namin is high school student.
Hindi ko ramdam na kailangan kong sabihin na kaya ko po yan, just trust me. Parang nagpakatotoo na lang po ako na dumaan ako sa tamang proseso. So maybe by that, kailangan ako ng company nyo. So parang doon ko lang po dinaan.
The Department of Labor and Employment says the K-12 will help fresh K-12 graduates to get a job. But because the graduates this year are the first batch, the Labor Department cannot tell if the program will address the issue of unemployment and job mismatch in the country.
What is important is na bridge natin yung gap in terms of basic education natin from 10 years to 12 years. Kasi yun yung kulang natin at the international labor market.
For newly graduates who want to get a job but have no job experience, this is the advice of Dole.
Pwede nilang sabihin sa prospective employers that they are willing to undergo training doon sa company para ma-build at ma-hone yung skills nila.
Dole also advised fresh graduates to be confident in job interviews.
Huwag silang mahihiya kasi yun yung nakikita namin pagka nag-a-apply sila ng trabaho. Pag tatanungin mo, anong ina-applyan mo? Bakit dito kang kumpanya pumipila? They cannot answer. Dapat they should be sure about what they are applying for and be confident.
Rafael and Joyceline still want to pursue their studies as the government is offering free college program. After college, they hope to get and apply for high-paying jobs. Monhokson, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Lieutenant General Carlito Galvez formally assumes the post as the new Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. Meanwhile, President Rodrigo Duterte admitted he ordered the investigation of Australian nun Patricia Fox by the Bureau of Immigration. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
AFP Chief of Staff General Ray Guerrero formally steps down from his post in a change of command ceremony, and he was replaced by the commander of the Western Mindanao Command, Lieutenant General Carlito Galvez. President Rodrigo Duterte cites the accomplishment of the armed forces under Guerrero's leadership, in which many new People's Army rebels surrendered to the government.
One of the most notable accomplishments of General Guerrero's short but impressive stint as Chief of Staff is the unparalleled number of communist and terrorist surrenderies. From less than 800 prior to his assumption, the number of surrenderies rose to more than 5,000 during his tour of duty. Congratulations, sir.
He also said he extended the term of Guerrero for the Marawi City rehabilitation. President Duterte orders Guerrero to report next week as the new Administrator of Maritime Industry Authority or Marina. Meanwhile, during his speech in the change of command ceremony, President Duterte admits that he was the one who directed the Bureau of Immigration to investigate the 71-year-old Australian Patricia Fox. He said he does not care if he is being criticized by any Filipino, but not by any foreigner in his own country. The chief executive also said he has the right to deny entry of any foreigner who violates the sovereignty of the country.
I can swallow. I can take all attacks, from the Lumads to the highest religious orders of all sorts, from my brother Moro, from the military, from everybody. Ang hiningi ko lang, you are a Filipino. You are entitled really to criticize. Pero kung insultuhin ako under the cloak of just being what? A Catholic, a priest?
Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Aguinaldo.
President Rodrigo Duterte has awarded the Medal of Valor to the 42 members of the Special Action Force who died in the Mama Sapano encounter in 2015. Victor Cosare will tell us why.
One of the considered atrocious episodes in the country's history is the Mama Sapano encounter. This happened in 2015, where 44 Special Action Force commandos lost their lives. Three years have passed, and now 42 of the 44 slain policemen are awarded with the Medal of Valor, the highest honor that a policeman may receive for his outstanding bravery and sacrifice in fulfilling his duty. President Rodrigo Duterte himself led the conferment of the PNP Medal of Valor to the bereaved families of the SAF commandos.
It comes late, but better late than never.
Prior to this, 2 of the killed SAF troopers were already given the Medal of Valor during the time of former President Benigno Aquino III. Aside from the Medal of Valor, the SAF 44 were also conferred with the Order of Lapu-Lapu Magalong Medal. The Magalong Medal is being granted to officials and government staff who showed extraordinary service relative to the President's campaign or advocacy.
Their extraordinary display of bravery during the fateful operation does not just qualify them to receive their highly coveted decoration. It makes them worthy to be called as heroes. We therefore recognize their heroism so they may inspire other men and women in uniform to also demonstrate the values of service, honor, and justice in all pursuits.
The President says the sacrifice of the SAF 44 will never be put in vain. But the Commander-in-Chief notes, despite the death of who was conferred as one of the world's most wanted terrorists, Zulkifli Binhir alias Marwan, the country still has a long way to go to achieve long-term peace. However, the President is confident that this can be achieved with the support of the National Police to the government. Victor Cosare, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Senator Panfilo Lacson asks the Senate to conduct investigation for the delay of the subsistence allowance for the Special Action Force members. The senator says this may prompt demoralization among the SAF members. The allowance of the SAF commandos that were not dispensed for 2 years reached almost 60 million pesos. Some former and current SAF officials are already charged with plunder case regarding this matter. The boxing match of world boxing champ Manny Pacquiao and Lucas Martin Mathis, or The Machine, is all set on July 15 in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Nel Maribuhok will tell us why.
The 35-year-old Argentinian world welterweight titleist Lucas Martin Matisse arrived in the country to formally accept the challenge of the World 8 Division champion Manny Pacquiao. The two met in Paranaque City earlier today to announce fight billed as Fight of the Champions to take place in Axiata Arena in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia on July 15. Both boxers expressed their determination to win this epic battle.
Sí, seguramente.
Sure. You know, Manny's won so many titles. He's done so much in boxing. I've only won 1 title. And I'm not going to give it up. I'll die for it if I have to.
No sé que él es un gran peleador. To prove this coming July 15 that Manny Pacquiao is not done yet in boxing.
The young Argentinian boxer had 39 4-win loss. 36 of his victories had been via knockouts that made him to be tagged as La Máquina or The Machine. Meanwhile, the Filipino sports icon Pacquiao had a ring record of 59-7-2. 38 of them were knockouts. The fighting senator chose his childhood friends Restituto Buboy Fernandez and Reyes Nonoy Neri as his chief trainers. At present, Pacquiao has not yet decided whether he would retire after his match with Matisse. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Paranaque City.
Up next on Y News. Grab Philippines insists the company is not overcharging its passengers. The Integrated Bar of the Philippines and a group of lawyers asked the UN Special Rapporteur to investigate President Rodrigo Duterte's alleged attacks on the judiciary. Stay tuned for Darlene Basingan. I'm Angelo Castro III. Good evening.
Tonight on Y News. The Departments of Agriculture and of Trade and Industry conduct an inspection in local markets to ensure quality and fair pricing of rice. The Commission on Elections favors the proposal mandating candidates in Barangay and Sanggunian Kabataan elections to submit their resumes. Some K-12 graduates experience difficulties in finding jobs. The Department of Trade and Industry and the Department of Agriculture with the National Food Authority have joined forces and conducted an inspection at Cartimar Market in Pasay City to monitor the quality and prices of rice. DA and DTI are now looking into the possibility of setting SRP or suggested retail price for rice to guide consumers.
Consumer ang bahalang mamili kung anong gusto nilang bigas. But at importante may option na mura.
Meanwhile, Agriculture Secretary Manny Piñol has questioned the high prices of commercial imported rice. He adds that the government allows the private sector to import rice to help stabilize the supply and price of rice in the country.
Hindi ko maintindihan kung bakit aabot ng 50 ang presyo ng imported na bigas. Ang ibig sabihin, ano pakinabang natin?
Piñol also appealed to rice retailers to support the government and traders project. The Commission on Elections is in favor of the proposal that mandates candidates for the Barangay and Sanggunian Kabataan elections to submit their resumes. The proposal came from the election watchdog National Citizens Movement for Free Election or NAMFREL. This is for the voters to choose wisely candidates who are capable to run for elections and serve their community. According to the poll body, while there is still no law requiring it, there is also no regulation that prohibits a candidate to include their bio in their COCs.
It's optional. I don't know that it will be elevated to the level of a mandatory requirement.
Meanwhile, some K-12 graduates are having difficulties in finding jobs. The Department of Labor and Employment says K-12 will help fresh K-12 graduates to get a job. But because the graduates this year are first batch, the Labor Department cannot tell if the program will address the issue of unemployment and job mismatch in the country.
What is important is na bridge natin yung gap in terms of basic education natin from 10 years to 12 years. Kasi yun yung kulang natin at the international labor market.
Dole also advises fresh graduates to be confident in job interviews. Grab Philippines shields itself from the public allegation that the company is overcharging passengers. Joanano will tell us why.
Grab Philippines stood firm that they did not overcharge their passengers. Grab insists that their fare structure is based on the previous department order released by then Department of Transportation and Telecommunications. They claim that they have already discussed the matter with the LTFRB and stood firm that their fare computation is legitimate.
Grab would like to set the record straight. We are not charging any illegal fares.
Grab explains that they need to implement the 2 peso per minute travel time rate in order for their drivers and operators to recover from their income loss due to extreme traffic problem in Metro Manila. But Grab admits that they were not able to inform their passengers before it was imposed.
There was no comms to the riders. Inside the app, in the information card, we've updated that. But when we raised to 2 pesos, it wasn't included yet. So, hindi namin nailagay or na-communicate.
Apart from the overcharging issue, Grab also addressed complaints against their operation, spreading in different social media platforms, as well as issues on booking cancellation and extreme fare increase. Grab Country Head Representative Brian Koo explains that higher fares are inevitable due to high demand ever since Uber has stopped operation.
But demand went up sharply, sharper than supply. 70%, 70, compared to a 40% increase in supply. Kulang pa rin ang cars to meet the demand.
Meanwhile, Grab says that they will closely monitor the performance of their drivers and assures that they will impose disciplinary actions against those proven taking advantage and regularly cancel ride bookings. The LTFRB will continue the investigation on the said issue on May 29. Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Informal workers affected by the temporary shutdown of Boracay Island may begin working on new jobs this month. Monokson tells us why.
The Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE, clarifies that it is their priority to provide employment to informal workers affected by the temporary closure of Boracay Island. Under the Emergency Employment Program, also known as Tulong Panghanap Buhay sa mga displaced workers or TUPAD program, about 5,000 jobs are allotted to workers who will lose their livelihood as a result of the temporary shutdown of the island. Informal workers include jeepney and tricycle drivers, haulers, fisher folks, masseurs, small-time vendors, lumads, and indigenous people and boatsmen. Under the PAD program, informal workers will receive minimum wage for 30 days, for which the government has allotted 50 million pesos.
To allocate 5,000 slots para sa informal sector muna. Itong informal sector kasi, naisip ni Secretary, talagang tatamaan ng grabe.
Among the community-based projects the informal workers may work on are clearing out debris, cleanup drives, minor repair works, and mangrove reforestation on the island. Meanwhile, DOLE is gathering the profiles of formal workers or the employees of private companies in Boracay to fast-track the provision of appropriate assistance to them.
Using their profile, we can match yung mga prospective employers nila para mas mataas yung chances nila na makakuha ng ibang trabaho.
Skilled workers in the hotel, restaurant, and food service industries may apply for jobs in hotels in neighboring towns through a job fair on April 26. A government internship program will also be open for workers aged 18 to 30. DOLE aims for the workers to begin working on their new jobs by April 27.
We are here to assist you. We are here to profile muna anong kailangan. Kasi kung hindi niya pala kailangan sa employment, mag-training siya, TESDA will be joining us.
The DSWD, DTI, and DENR will work together with DOLE so that the government's projects and assistance to workers will be consistent. Mon Hokson, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
A group of lawyers submitted a report to the United Nations Special Rapporteur in relation to the alleged President Rodrigo Duterte's criticisms on judiciary in the country. Grace Casin will tell us why.
The Integrated Bar of the Philippines and a group of lawyers called the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the independence of judges and lawyers to investigate President Rodrigo Duterte. They submitted a report early today on what they say are President Duterte's blatant attacks against the judiciary. This include the threat by the President to Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno that he will order the Congress to fast-track the impeachment complaints against her, and his threat to lawyers defending suspected drug personalities to be included in the war on drugs. The President also has a disagreement with IBP President Attorney Abiel Fajardo when Fajardo defended the office of the Ombudsman. According to the group, judges and lawyers can't even state their sentiments freely because if they criticize the government, they will be harassed and tagged as rebels and criminal.
Ang problem dito, ang kanyang attacks nagtithreaten sa judicial independence. Nagtithreaten sa independence of lawyers. He is immune from suit but is not immune from investigation.
The group admits that the UN Special Rapporteur has no sanction, but if the government ignores the investigation, it will have a negative effect on our country.
Malaki ang impact niyan sa international relations natin sa iba't ibang mga bansa. Apektado ang magiging economic policies, apektado ang siguro pagpapadala natin ng migrant workers, apektado ang trade natin.
Meanwhile, presidential spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque reiterates that the call to impeach the Chief Justice did not originate from the executive. Roque notes that for the longest time, the president has been silent about the issue, notwithstanding the allegations made by CJ Sereno against the Chief Justice in many public fora, saying the latter is behind her impeachment. He adds that the president's statement on CJ impeachment is just a reaction to these accusations and not an attack to the judiciary or an affront to judicial independence. Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Maynilad is set to implement water service interruption in several places in Manila, Caloocan, Malabon, Quezon City, and Pasay City on April 20 to 21. The said areas will experience no water service supply from 10 in the evening of Friday until 4 in the morning of Saturday. Maynilad clarifies that this is due to the repair of some facilities in the area and not because of allocation shortage. All affected residents are advised to store water before the said service interruption. Netizens are now enjoying a Facebook quiz app seemingly revealing President Rodrigo Duterte's message to FB users. Leslie Longbowen tells us why.
Have you seen President Rodrigo Duterte's message for you? Some Facebook users have. Or not? Netizens have fun using a Facebook quiz app where the president seemingly chats with them with a special message. She seems very close to the president that her birthday is planned to be declared a national holiday. Meanwhile, Angeli received an invitation from the chief executive to feel cool in Malacanang this hot, dry season. The president also revealed a secret to Adrian. He's offered to lead the Davao Guapo Squad. While netizens enjoy using online quiz apps, the public is still advised to be vigilant in doing so. The National Privacy Commission or NPC earlier reminded everyone regarding such, especially that almost all FB apps ask permission to access information from users.
Nangyayari is, kinukuha talaga ng isang app developer yan. Now, kung ano yung gawin nila with that, dapat alam mo rin na you have to be vigilant din kung kanino ka nagbibigay ng consent.
Facebook is now in the midst of data breach controversy that affected millions of users where a personality quiz app was also used. So always remember, think before you click. Leslie Longbowen, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Those are the reasons behind the news, April 18, 2018. I'm Darlene Basingan. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Thank you for watching Why News.